Hey guys, so in the last video I worked my butt off to get this thing done, and I kind of teased you a little bit and told you we were going to film a reveal when Zach saw it, but we weren't able to do that.
I got in a little late, and it was pretty dark in here outside, and we decided not to film it, but I walked in and was blown away. I could not believe that Tiffany did all of this, not only by herself, but in like the span of a couple days. Probably would have easily taken me alone like a week.
Nah.
So I don't know. I feel like I would not have been able to do as good a job.
That's not true at all, but thank you.
It's incredible, and I think it was fantastic that you did that before the Tiny House Festival, because we were able to see that and have a finished piece right when you walk in the doorway.
Yeah.
And so this was a great thing to see when you immediately walk in. Speaking of the Tiny House Festival, it was awesome. We were fortunate that we were able to go the last day. We weren't able to do the first 2 days because I had this big job that I had to go and work on for about a week. But I made it back in time to allow us to go Sunday, and it was an amazing experience.
And we even had a few people say they didn't even notice all the insulation there because of this, which was the idea.
Yeah, exactly. If this is a good distraction, then perfect. So
yeah.
That was really good. We had a great time Sunday. So I don't know how many people came in, probably around 1,000, maybe?
Yeah, when we first got here, we got settled in, we were having our coffee, and we kind of got like a welcoming committee from all the schoolies that were there. They showed up at our door, and they were just so nice, and we made some new friends and some new connections.
Yeah.
So that was really
cool.
special.
It was really great. Mm-hmm. We'll definitely do it again.
All right, so it's finally time for our Q&A. I know I've been building it up for a long time, but I was waiting to get enough questions, and now Zach's back, so he'll be able to answer some of the questions that I was not sure how to answer.
Yeah.
First, a few questions that have just been about us. How did we meet?
We met in middle school.
Or junior high school, I guess.
We were
14. And yeah.
Started dating. I guess we just never stopped. I always say once you go Zach, you never go back. But Tiffany doesn't like that.
What breed are Tuco and Frankie? So Frankie is a Cocker Spaniel, an American Cocker Spaniel. And Tuco is a mutt. We like to think he is pit bull because of his eye shape, some Shar-Pei because the curly tail, maybe some Chow because he's got some black on his tongue,
and he's got
Lab probably,
and a bunch of other stuff I'm sure thrown in at some point. He was the only one in the litter that looked like this, though. All of his other brothers and sisters looked like Brendel boxerish.
Yeah.
And he was definitely the biggest of the litter. But anyway, he
was the cutest.
We made an immediate
so
connection with him when we found him.
He's the best. Yes, you are. Okay, somebody wanted to know what are the tattoos that I have. So I'll cut to some B-roll and let Zach show you my tattoos. But I've got a half sleeve with sugar skulls, cicadas, Luna moths. I have a big fox on my back. I have some flowers and a snake and all kinds of stuff. So.
From how many different artists? You got 3 different artists?
No, they're all
different
artists. So 5 different artists.
So.
Nobody has asked this, but just in case you're wondering how old we are, because I know that I look and sound a little younger than Zach, but we're the same age. We're 28.
Yeah, we're both 28.
Okay, this was a cool question. Did you guys ever think you would turn minimalist and size down all the way to a bus? What was your breaking point to finally say, let's do this? That is a great question, and really I don't really know if there was exactly a breaking point, but I think it was in Atlanta.
Yeah, well, I mean, we never lived in big places. Like, I mean, even growing up, like, we certainly didn't live in a tiny house, but it wasn't enormous. We didn't have more room than we really needed. Then we moved into an apartment in Marietta, but it was a studio and was really tiny. We almost have as much counter space in the bus now as we did in that apartment in Georgia.
I think that's accurate.
and a very small closet space. And so I think that immediately that was the first step, I think. We wanted to live in this area. It was right on a city square where there were restaurants and a park and all these places that you could literally just walk to, stone's throw away. And we said, and there was an amazing building that we wanted to live in. So we said it was easy to make that sacrifice of space and things to get to there. And so I think that just naturally led into, or it made us okay with the idea of tiny living without even really realizing it.
What does your family think?
I guess I'll go first. My family, initially there was there were certainly some questions, like, really? Are you really doing this? But ever since I think they realized that we're really doing this, they've been extremely supportive and really, they can understand why we're doing it. I think I can hear that in their voices, but they're still very interested in the build, and they're excited for us. And so while it's certainly something I don't think they would ever really consider, they appreciate the fact that we want to do it, and they're really wonderful people that will support us even if it's something they don't truly get the reasoning behind. So that I'm really fortunate in that way, and I think Tiffany's family's about the same.
I think my family maybe gets the desire that we have a little more to travel, but of course they have their concerns, for our safety, and they have a lot of questions, and they just want to make sure that we're doing it safely, but they're definitely supportive. So
yeah, and I think that's all you can ask for.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you guys are the best.
What has been the hardest part of the bus conversion?
Hopefully the hardest part's behind us.
I think it probably is.
We got asked this question a couple times at the Tiny House Festival, and I think it's not one particular project. I think it's the fact that each decision you make affects other decisions down the line, some that you may not even consider. And the hardest part for me has been being okay with just making a call, like just making a decision without overthinking it, because you worry about the rest of the things it's going to affect. And
but in general, it'll work itself out.
It works itself out. You adapt. You're like, oh yeah, we can't do this now because of this, but that's okay because now we can do this now. All of that, it's just one thing affects everything else in a tiny space. That's the hardest part to me.
All right, next, what's left to do?
A lot.
It's still a lot. So we need to plumb the gray tanks.
We have the gray tanks. We have to mount them now underneath and plumb them.
We need to mount the solar panels.
Yeah, and the decking, and then thus the solar panels. We're still working out the best way to mount the solar panels to the decking. We'd love to be able to tilt them both directions, but that's a tall order. So we'll see what happens there.
We need to install our max fan.
That's probably next on the to-do list because it's getting pretty hot in Longmont right now. It's going to be 101 today. So
we're in here doing this early in the morning.
Early in the morning, and it would be nice to have some airflow while we're working on the rest of the things. So
yes.
I think that's probably the first
Yeah,
job.
I finally have my schedule somewhat clear and want to work on the bus, but it is way too hot to get
warm.
in here.
It's warm.
So, yeah. And finally, we need a bed.
Oh, yeah, we probably need a bed, too.
That's a big one. And, yeah, there's some other things, but those are the big ones. Right? And this is an exciting one. When are you setting sail? So we're looking at, hopefully, like the second week of August.
Yeah, I think August... Some point in August we're going to be on the road.
So we had a couple people ask us, if you had unlimited funds and time, what do you think the fastest you could build out a bus would be?
And Kevin Jones asked that. He's an old high school friend of ours, so thanks for...
Well, also Ryan, a.k.a. Chicken Nugget Waffle, who we met at the Tiny House Festival.
This is the best name ever.
Yeah, I wanted to say that.
I love that name. Not a joke.
So how long does a bus conversion take if you're able to commit all of your time and money to it? I bet you could do it in
you could probably do it in
3 months.
If you did nothing else, you could probably get it done in 3 months, maybe less if you knew what you're doing.
It depends on how many people are working on it, but in this case, we'll say 2 people working on it full time, maybe 3 months.
I'd say 3 to 4 months if you just pedal to the metal every day.
Okay, we get this question a lot, so it's time to finally answer it. So if you saw some of our older videos, we put the wood ceiling up, and then we put the metal housing back over the wiring, and we thought that was a good solution, and it would have been a fine solution. But ultimately, so the question is, why did we take that down? Because a lot of people liked that solution. There's a couple reasons. One was because we didn't think we were going to use the lights that were in it. There were big holes in it for speakers, and we didn't want to use the speaker holes. I had covered the holes with little things to hang Polaroid pictures. But the biggest reason is that we decided we could have a little bit of storage up there.
We'd be able to use a bit more storage, have some boxing and shelving up there that we can keep things in. And I don't know, it didn't quite fit with the rustic, farmhouse cabin vibe we had going on, so we decided to swap that out with something handmade, and I'm glad we did. It would have been fine.
Sure.
It did a nice job of keeping everything together for the most part, because it was a big wiring harness. But I'm glad that we took that out, undid all of the unnecessary wiring, and now we have storage space up there.
So. And there was one more reason I forgot. Because that housing was like angled, we would have had to either cut that or build our walls around that angle, and that would have been a pain.
Took out even less storage if we did put storage on top of that, so it just was better for us to remove it.
So our next question is relevant because of the weather that crazy weather we've been having in Colorado the last couple weeks. Very curious about how to prevent damage of hail and how much affects the solar panels.
Right, so hail, we've had some crazy hail recently, and my boss that lives not very far from here got just absolutely pummeled. With hail. I've never seen hail damage like that before. We got hail, but it wasn't quite so bad. But Living Zeal actually is in Boulder, maybe 30 minutes away from us, and they posted a video about the serious hail that they got at the same time. And they didn't get it quite as bad as my boss did, but they had some significant hail, and it damaged some of their flexible solar panels. The flexible solar panels are great. They're really cool. They're perfect for curved areas and areas that you're not able to put the rigid panels. But the downside to those is that they don't have as much protection. It's basically, those cells are just right there, and if anything dents them, like hail, then they get damaged and not run at peak efficiency. Whereas a rigid solar panel, like the ones we have from Goal Zero or Renogy, they have tempered glass on top, and so it's more difficult to put them in interesting areas, so you kind of have to have a rack, whereas the flexible panels, you can basically just put straight on the roof of the roof of the bus. And that's awesome, but you know, upsides, downsides. So we have tempered glass panels, and the hail just kind of bounces off of that. Large enough hail could potentially crack the tempered glass, but that's still just glass that's damaged. It's not the actual solar cell. Goal Zero actually has a video up. I forget which one it is. We'll put a link in the description, but it was about them like being at base camp about to climb a mountain, and they would pack solar panels up to base camp. They have to hike up to base camp. One of the Sherpas, I guess, or somebody that was carrying gear, lost his bag. A solar panel was on that bag, and it dropped, I don't know, they said like hundreds of feet, 1,000 feet or something, and it cracked, but it still is running. It still generates electricity. So that was pretty telling, you know, the fact that they're that durable. They can be damaged in that way, that significantly, but still run it at efficiency. So really, I think probably the best way to mitigate hail damage is to have that tempered glass solar panel. We've also toyed with the idea of having some dedicated like blankets or plywood or something, so if hail's in the forecast, we could just run up there and lay them over top, but I don't know if that's really truly necessary.
Next question is, where do you guys plan on road tripping to? Everywhere.
Yeah, we get that question a lot. Where are you going to go? It's
first, we're going to South Dakota.
Yep.
We're going to establish residency there, and they're very friendly to full-time RVers and stuff. And then after that, we're going to try to make it to California for an event. And then after that, headed back to Alabama to see family for a little bit.
Yeah, so we kind of have the rest of the year mapped out right now. After January 1, we don't know. We're going to probably head back out west. That's the whole point, really, is that we don't have to be any one place, and we can go where we want when we want to.
What kind of paint did you guys use? I'm on that step of my bus build, and I can't decide on a final type of paint.
We struggled with this for months, literally months, because we were initially going to do rattle can, and we painted the entire half of our bus in rattle can as a test, and it just wasn't it just didn't look as good as we wanted it to. And then a friend of ours, a neighbor that lives really close to us, suggested using Rust-oleum and a protective enamel and rolling it on instead of spraying it on. Like, oh, that sounds really easy. That sounds much easier than using rattle can and a lot less time consuming, so that's what we did.
Yeah, it went on really well. It smooths itself out.
Yeah, because it's oil based. If you use a roller, you'll get that kind of roller texture, but then because it's oil based and it takes so long to set, it evens itself out over time. You can almost watch it happen, and it's a much smoother paint job.
Yeah, and the next question is related, is did we have to thin out the Rust-oleum before we used it? We did not. It went on really well without being thinned out.
The only thing I might have done differently is maybe added a hardener, because if you put your thumbnail to it, you can kind of see that thumbnail indentation because it's oil-based enamel, but it's not a big deal.
Doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, we even I was super surprised at the Tiny House Festival. Got some compliments on our paint job, which never expected that.
So great. We're still going to do like some decals, and I think it's not done yet, but we're really happy with the base coat.
Yeah. And that's Rust-oleum almond, if you liked the color.
Is the color.
All right. This one's an interesting one. Love the video and other builds to follow. My question for everyone is, do you have any design ideas to include a full-size soaking tub? We're preparing to eliminate a lot, but I still want a relaxing soak. Thanks. Keep up the good work. All right. To start, our horse trough, like, I can soak in that.
Yeah.
And
so could I.
We'll show you. Cut to some B-roll.
Yeah.
But I actually have seen some people do like a clawfoot tub.
Yeah.
You know, you make room for what's important to you, so it's totally possible.
Yeah, that's something really cool about bus builds, and the fact that you're customizing it is that, you know, different things are important to different people, and for some people, soaking in a tub is super important. And so if that's the case, then you can sacrifice something else so that you can have that. And for us, we're using a horse trough bathtub. We're certainly not going to be soaking in it when we're boondocking, but
No.
if we're connected to city power while
Why
we're
not?
at an RV park, I mean, yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
You could.
All right, this is a Zach question. What have you done to the bus mechanically to make sure it gets you where you want to go? Do you have a service schedule planned? And if so, could you share it? Thanks for the content.
So that's a wonderful question. And so the mechanics of the bus is something that I've been really concerned with, and also just dealing with for the most part, probably more than Tiffany.
Oh, yeah.
So far what we've done really has not been very much. We've done an oil change. We just had the coolant drained and added new coolant. It had the old green coolant, and it was a little dirty. We've watched other people take their hoses out and see the coolant, and it was this neon green. And when we took our coolers out, or our heaters out, it was kind of dirty looking. So we cleaned that. We drained it and added the red Caterpillar coolant, which was recommended to us. What else have we done?
In the winter, he insists on driving it
once
a week or something.
We definitely drive it occasionally, just so that, and crank the engine so it. Again, I'm not speaking from experience. What I've read, the worst things for a diesel are just tons of idling and sitting and not doing anything. So you got to give it some exercise, and so that's what we tried to do that as much as we can over the winter. Even then, we probably didn't do it as much as we should have, but she started up every single time. There was one time in winter where it was like -5, where she didn't start, but she was trying real hard, and if I had kept the engine block plugged in and heated up, I'm sure she would have turned over. But other than that, I mean, I keep expecting there to be some big thing happening, some huge issue, but it's not come up. The biggest thing could potentially be heat. It got a little hotter than we would have liked to have seen it going to and from Denver. It got up to 210, but the fan didn't kick on. But from what I've read from the people I've talked to, the fan typically kicks on a little bit past 210.
And that's what the mechanics
told us. And so we're really, really trying to keep an eye on it. Having it run too hot can really, really damage the engine. So that's something we're really, really keeping an eye on. But other than that,
having the coolant replaced seemed to help it stay cool.
Kept it a little cool.
And Zach started driving it a little differently than he was before.
Yeah, so I kind of read online that you kind of put the pedal to the metal all the time. That's just how these buses like to run. But after talking to a couple people and doing some experimenting, if you feathering on the startup has there's not quite as much fuel going in. We would be getting some black smoke in the back because too much fuel too quickly. So it has some unburnt diesel, and so that's why that black smoke comes in the back. So now I've been feathering it a little bit more, especially on startup, and that has essentially, from what I can tell, alleviated the black smoke, and probably puts less strain on the engine, and so which just makes sense. So that was just our ignorance when it comes to buses in the beginning. We're
learning. And by the way, on the way to the Tiny House Festival, which was about a 45-minute drive, was the first time I really got to ride in here.
Yeah, with the seatbelts and cushions.
Yeah, so I had my seatbelt, and I took a little footage of that. But Zach's a really good driver. I felt really safe. I just felt like I was going to school.
Yeah, it's easy to drive. It really is. I love this thing. It's a little bumpy, when you go over a few bumps, you can feel them. But we have an air ride, which is nice, so that helps even things out.
And nothing fell down.
Nothing. Oh yeah, that's true. Nothing fell. Even over some significant bumps, nothing fell
down. We did have the ukulele set up, and I thought it was good, but it kind of like came off its shelf, so that's why I installed these little sticks on the side. One, it's cute, but two, it'll keep the ukulele from going back and forth. So. But everything else was pretty secure.
Mm-hmm.
I did put a second latch on this cabinet down here as well. Okay. I would like to know the reasoning for choosing the DT466 and the Allison MT643.
I think it's actually, is it 463 or 643? I think it should be 643.
Well, okay. Why'd you choose your engine and transmission?
I might be wrong. So again, we're not speaking from experience. We don't have any experience with these engines, so I'm not going to talk like I know exactly and what I'm talking about. From the research we did, mostly on schoolie.net, the combination of a DT466 and the Allison MT643 were really kind of lauded. They were really sort of celebrated for their reliability, and tend to have a little bit more power than another engine and transmission combo. We wanted to be able to go over mountain passes and feel comfortable, and we didn't want to think about the engine and the transmission and worry about them too much. And so, and also in the DT466 realm, that engine has a really good reputation, but also the mechanical version has a better reputation with the people and the research that we've done than the DT466E, which is the electrical version. Apparently, the electrical version is a little bit more difficult to work on because everything's electronic. Whereas the mechanical version, you can kind of do testing, you can pick out exactly what's going on instead of getting, plugging in and getting a slew of reader errors. This is a little bit simpler. Again, to me, it's all the same. I don't have that experience and knowledge to work on them, but for mechanics, it seems that the mechanical DT466 is preferred. So that's
so we just kind of trusted that and went with it.
And when we found a bus that had, so we knew that's kind of what we wanted to begin with. So we started looking for buses with those, and then when we found one that has a DT466 and a mechanical version and an Allison MT643 and had a high ceiling, we were like,
and was the right length for
our driveway. And it was the right length for our driveway. We were like, well, we're done now.
Done.
We had to go for it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. How much does it cost to fill up your bus? We didn't know the answer to this until Sunday because we had to fill up for the very first time on the way to the Tiny House Festival.
And even then, we didn't fill up all the way. We had a quarter tank left, and we filled it up to 3/4 full. We're still sort of getting the feel for how it is to fill this thing up because this is the only like this. I think the second time that we put gas in it.
Yeah, I think so.
In 2 years, it's not a good thing. And I was actually really happy that we had made these trips to Denver because up to now there probably isn't any more, but there was probably still some diesel in it from the time that we picked it up. That was like almost 2 years ago. So it's old diesel, which is kind of okay, but not great. I wanted the newer summer blend in, and we have that in now, which is good. It took $70 to fill it up.
So we're guessing maybe $100 to fill it?
It's going to be right around $100. I forget what the actual the size of the tank right now. I'll see if I can put that in the comments if I can find it.
awesome video. Not sure if you guys have talked about your water situation yet. I'd love to know what you guys are thinking so I can get some ideas. So we're definitely going to do a video on our water.
Yeah, we're going to do a plumbing video pretty shortly, I think.
Hopefully very soon.
Yeah.
But right now we have decided on, we have about 60 gallons of fresh and like a little bit more than that in gray. We are keeping our fresh tanks inside the bus so that they don't freeze, but we are mounting the gray tanks underneath. We do have a on-demand hot water heater for the shower only. It's not hooked up to our kitchen sink. We have a full kitchen sink, a little hand pump bathroom sink, and a full shower.
We initially ordered the wrong tank. It was 43 gallons that we ordered. So we ordered then another 20-gallon tank and then just connected them. If we can get away, as long as we're not just chugging and taking tons of showers, we should be able to get 2 weeks out of that pretty well. And then if not, we can always just grab some gallon jugs and have those waiting around if we really needed them.
Yeah, under the bathroom sink, we have 2 6-gallon jugs that's hooked up to that's totally independent, hooked up to the hand pump faucet. So that's kind of a backup.
So that ends up being that's another 6. So we'll probably have around 70 gallons for 2 people, 2 dogs. So I feel like that's going to be plenty.
Hopefully.
Well, we'll find out.
Okay, this question we get occasionally. Where did you get your seatbelt and how did you install it? I have 2 kids that will be in car seats, so I'll need them.
Yeah.
So we just got the seatbelt at what, AutoZone?
AutoZone or Amazon or something. There are a bunch.
No,
I think we actually literally did go to AutoZone or O'Reilly or something.
Yeah, it was an auto parts store locally. And we did attach the seatbelt to the metal frame of the school bus. We didn't want to just attach it to wood. So we had to dig back here behind the couch while the couch was still in construction, and we attached the seatbelt to that metal lip there, so it's super strong. Yeah,
and we'll show you a clip of that if we can. But it was important for us to, and it's at an odd angle. It's not like facing the front as like it really should be. It's facing the side. But even that's better than nothing, and it's attached to the frame. Because if you have a seatbelt attached to something wood in your vehicle, a hard enough hit will break that loose, and that's when you really need the seatbelt. So we might actually install one somewhere else just for those.
Another option.
Just a forward-facing option, for just in case for light stuff, but having the option to have another one that's really bolted to the frame.
Yeah, when we're on the highway or something.
That's really handy.
I don't know if I've told you all this before, but I get car sick, so riding sideways is not ideal for me, but safety is our main concern. So, and we're actually trying to decide if I'm even going to be riding in here. We might be driving a car behind.
Yeah, we could be driving a car behind instead of towing it, and we have reasons for that, which we'll probably talk about in another video, but we're weighing those options.
Okay. All right. Are you worried about driving visibility with that front door?
So, good question. So our bus is an International Amtran Genesis, and the front windows is actually a lot of visibility. It actually has like 2 little additional windows in addition to the big front window that gives me a lot of visibility, a lot of sight left and right. And there is a window in the door as well. Now, a couple of people have asked, like, is it okay that you can't see the bottom of the door? You can't see where you're lining up on the curb? And I actually say to that, like, that I never used that anyway. Even when we had the original door, I didn't look at the bottom of it to see where I was, because the wide angle fisheye mirror in the front actually gives me a better idea of where I am against the curb than the door does, because I can see down the length of the bus, and I can see exactly where I am in the lane, where I am in the curb, and so I wasn't even using that before. So we have slightly less visibility because the previous door had windows all the way up and down, but it's fine. It's more than what I need.
Another one, the really nice comment. The bus looks gorgeous. Thank you. Question, how much does it weigh? Are there weight limits to being street legal and or getting insured? I was watching a van conversion in Australia, and they have strict weight limits for vans, buses, RVs in order to be street legal. So I was wondering if it's also true here in the States. Nobody mentions weight on conversions. It seems to only be a concern with tiny houses.
It's a great question, and one that you should certainly think about, but fortunately, at least in the States, it doesn't tend to be a huge deal. School buses especially, one of the reasons why they're so popular is that they are really overbuilt. They're designed to hold way more than what they ever are really holding. They're designed to transport children. So our bus has a gross vehicle weight rating, GVWR, for those that are not familiar, that's what that means, gross vehicle weight rating, of, I think it's 32,000 pounds. It's like 32 or 37,000 pounds, which is an insane amount of weight. We haven't had it weighed recently. We've put more in since the initial weight. But when we weighed initially to get insurance and title and all of that, before renovating, we had, I think it was like 15 or 16,000 pounds. We were literally half of what this vehicle could potentially carry. And so we certainly haven't put in 15,000 pounds. So, and nor will we. I don't know what we could possibly put in. You know, it adds up over time, but I mean, good Lord, 15,000. I mean, that's a lot of weight. So we're going to come in way under that. You do want to check. I mean, if you're throwing a bunch of heavy stuff in your bus and you start approaching that gross vehicle weight rating, do keep in mind, you know, if you get into an accident and you're found to be over that weight rating, then, you know, insurance isn't going to help you because you're over what is recommended for that vehicle. And so do keep an eye on it, but again, because school buses are designed the way they are, they're designed to hold so much and carry so much weight, and they're overbuilt, it tends to not be an issue. I know that was an issue. It's an issue for people in RVs. If you renovate an RV, those coaches are designed to hold way less weight than a school bus is. You wouldn't think it, but they're designed very differently. And so when you start adding things to an RV, then it's very easy to get over that weight rating. And so again, you know, if you get into an accident or if you have some kind of issue like that, they're not going to be very forgiving if you're over your weight limit.
Okay, this one's also about the paint. I meant to ask, how much paint did it take to paint your bus? So for the white part, the elastomeric part, comes all the way down to the bottom of our windows. So we only had to paint the bottom half of the bus. And that only took 3 pints of Rust-oleum almond. Is it pint or quart?
I think it's quart.
Quarts. The small Rust-oleum cans, it took only 3 of those. And there's some places that could use some touch-up. So for this size bus, I'd probably say 3 or 4.
Hey Siri. Hey Siri. Never mind.
Siri doesn't like you. I also wanted to ask, what software do you use to edit your videos? We use Adobe Premiere Pro, right?
Yep.
It's a great program. I'm still learning it, but well, yeah, both of us still are because this is kind of new to us, but we'd recommend it.
Yeah.
This question we get a lot. Did you have to get a CDL license to drive your bus home?
Get that question all the time.
It's a great question.
It is a very good question. So, and it's a weird answer. So it depends on where you are, for starters. Some places, a lot of it has to do with like air brakes. If it's a commercial vehicle that has air brakes, then you need a CDL kind of in Colorado. So that made getting the bus back home tricky. I needed to have insurance. I need to have commercial insurance to get the bus home. And so I called an insurance company and they wrote me a temporary policy to get it home. And they did not ask me if I had a CDL. I didn't mention it, but they didn't ask me if I had one. And I told them exactly what I was doing. Made it clear that it's not a commercial vehicle anymore, and it's only being used to transport one person, and that seemed to satisfy them. If you once that commercial vehicle is retitled as an RV, then it's no longer an issue. RVs, especially big Class A motorhomes, have air brakes, and so I asked many people. I asked a bunch of people from the state. I asked people from actual RV dealerships, like, if I bought an RV, is there any special license I need? The answer was always no. And so, no, we never had to have an additional license.
So that's the end of our main questions. I wanted to cover some funny questions we got at the Colorado Tiny House Festival.
Tuco.
One of the questions we got a lot is, where are you going to sleep? I thought that was really funny because to us it's really obvious that this big space in the back is going to be where the bed goes. And we had a sign up, and I'm sure not everybody was able to read the sign, that this is a work in progress. But no, the couch does not pull out into a bed, and the bed will be built over the water tanks in the back. So some funny questions I got from kids. Like 3 different kids asked me if I was going to keep a pet in here.
In the...
Like it's a cage, which
honestly,
is
like,
not a bad idea.
If we had cats, I could totally see a cat just getting real cozy in there.
Yeah, but I wouldn't lock it in there. And then my favorite, a little boy, he had a great idea. He was being very helpful. But he pointed up here to the front of our bus, and he said, I think you should put a really nice piece of wood up there because right now it looks kind of gross.
Totally right.
He is right.
Totally right.
I mean, just imagine. It kind of looks like alien snot or something. So, tuco. So we'll definitely be covering that.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys so much for all of your questions. I hope this helps somebody. We wanted to remind you that there is a few days left if you want to be entered into the t-shirt giveaway. We sold some at the festival, but we have plenty left. So if you're interested, head on over to our Patreon page and sign up by the end of this month, which is June 2018. And in the first week of July, we're going to draw a name and you'll get a t-shirt.
Yeah. And you know, if you guys become patrons, that means so much to us. We've had a bunch recently, so thank you to you guys. That's really incredible. You know, if you're thinking about becoming a patron and want to be entered into the drawing, then go for it. No, that's excellent. But certainly don't become a patron if you just want free stuff. We're gonna do other kinds of giveaways, but we definitely are gonna do more for our patrons because they make this kind of stuff happen. So we're indebted to you guys, and we certainly want to help give back. So thank you for all of you that are patrons now, that are thinking of becoming patrons. We truly appreciate it. Wrap it up.
All right, thanks for watching. We hope you got something out of these questions, and thanks for sending those in.
Yeah,
keep giving us questions.
Yeah,
we'll do another one if you liked this. So
keep them coming.
Keep them coming.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.